Hey guys, today I decided I wanted to get some of my thoughts together about Trump's tariffs, and I think I kind of came into a conclusion that seemed fairly reasonable. I really think Trump's tariffs are going to be bad for manufacturing, and I just want to break down my thought process and please leave any questions or concerns you or disagreements that you have in the comments because I'd be super interested to hear what y'all think about my idea. So first off, let's talk about the tariffs. Um, one, here are the tariff rates. As you know, last Wednesday Trump announced these tariff rates on every country in the world, and they are highly based off of the net imports and exports divided by the amount of imports. Um, and Fundamentally, there's at least a 10% tariff on every country. I think it averaged around 25 to 26, maybe a little bit less percentage uh, for all of our trade currently in the country. And let's just think of that as the amount of stuff um, that's coming into our country from imports and exports. Just to start the point. So let's. I really want to look at some business fundamentals generally while we talk about this. So let's look at first about what is manufacturing. Manufacturing is industries that produced from raw materials, from labor or machinery, some end product. It could be furniture, it could be cars, and that's kind of a lot of the focus these tariff policies had in place originally. Is you want to bring manufacturing back to America. A lot of people are saying that it's really, really important that America can produce all these things. So if we come into World War III, for example, that we wouldn't be caught flat-footed. But I think there's going to be some issues with this. And let me go to a very simplified model of the manufacturing business. It's extremely simplified, but let's just break this down for a second. So first off, we get some simplified versions of the cost. So when you have cost, you have to pay for three things: labor, people working on your stuff, capital, which is like the machinery or the land or the buildings that you have that will help you produce the things that you need, and the goods. You need your prerequisite goods. If you are making potato chips, you need potatoes. If you are making a car, you need steel and aluminum and the various car parts that you need. And now I want to look at the simplified profits. This is a little bit more complicated, but I think it's pretty straightforward. So your profits are going to be basically your domestic sales plus your international sales, and that international sales will be multiplied by some trade barrier factor. Let's say the EU has tariffs on us, or let's say that there's some VAT tax, whatever. Something that makes it more difficult to trade or move overseas, that basically gives you less profit overall. That's why I have that there. And subtracted by the cost, right? Which we saw previously right here. All right, so let's I want to look at the impact of these things on this tariff policy. All these kind of variables. I know it's very oversimplified, and I didn't really include like transportation, logistic costs, marketing, but I think fundamentally this is your base case of running a business. There's tons of small businesses all across the country who kind of do this, and kind of the model that they use. Let's say if someone's like trying to make T-shirts. I've been watching some other content creators, and like they're talking about their models of stuff, and I thought this was pretty apt. So let's look at impact, right? I'm going to argue that 5 out of these 6 things are going to be negatively impacted for companies during tariffs, right? Let's first start with goods. The goods you need to produce things are going to increase in cost. Recall at least 10%. Imagine if everything that is required to make your end product is increased by 10%. That's going to be added into your final product costs. For things produced internationally, tariffs will increase their costs, and for things produced locally, demand will go up and increase their prices. There's some things that are mostly entirely produced in the United States, but I think a large majority of at least some industries are compensated by having some international trade. Capital. You're going to have similar issues with capital. Things will increase in cost when they're produced internationally. If Ironically, I think like iPhones is your prime example. Like I think I saw earlier today that the iPhone is going to cost around $3,000 if it's gets these tariffs on it, which that might be a little bit overblown, but it's going to be a very, very expensive feat to have these like maybe $1 million pieces of equipment now go up to, let's say, if it's coming from China, 1,300,000. And also the same thing if it's produced domestically, the demand for those things will increase because you can't offset it by the international competitors. Labor. I'm imagining for labor, all your things are going to increase in costs. So labor is going to have higher demands for salaries. They're also going to have higher demands for some benefits, and they're just going to want some increased pay generally to pay and live their lives. Whether or not companies will actually give this, I think there's just going to be a demand for higher pay with this, and I think this is. I'll talk about some of this later on, but this is going to be a breaking point. Next, international sales. International sales are going to go down. Look at the tariffs we've placed on Canada already. They are boycotting the American brands. It is a shame for any Canadian to be caught with any American wine or bourbon. It has become a stigma to be associated with America. Who knows if this is felt to the same extent in Europe? I think they kind of had a little bit of a warning, but I think Canada's like not traveling to America. It's going to be bad. Next, trade barrier factors. This is going to only increase with trade barrier factors increasing. China has already increased their tariffs up to match our tariffs, and the EU probably next week, or if you're reading this, the week of the 7th, they're going to probably strike back. They're going to say, we're putting tariffs on you. It is very politically popular to do these, and it's a way to fight back and say, we're not going to take all the cheap goods lying down. So the only good thing is domestic sales. Your domestic sales will increase by a marginal amount. But that's also assuming that the other domestic factories don't also have to increase their costs to compensate for that, for the tariffs, and it's kind of all washes out. So let's talk about consequences here. So first thing, obviously speaking, the market has spoken. Most people, I think, agree with my thesis that with all these things added together, it's not going to give an American an advantage, and if only, it'll probably most likely just give it tons of disadvantages. I think first off, prices are going to increase, and the first thing in cost-cutting measures that these companies are going to do is they're going to cut labor. I think traditionally this is kind of how it goes, which in turn is going to reduce your aggregate demand in your country, and in turn make people buy less and kind of get us in a death spiral of less economic activity, which leads to more layoffs, which leads to just a general recession. We'll see if this actually pans out. This is just a hypothesis for now, but I just want to say thank you for listening. I really think that long-term manufacturing is going to be more negatively impacted. I could be wrong. I might be missing something, and if you think I am, please call it out. I'd love to hear your feedback. All right. Thanks for watching, and bye.